Hello again, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for this Wednesday's edition of Alaska Weather. Last day of June, 2021. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service. I'll be hosting today's show. First graphic we have today is the flood warning that's out for the Taku River. Hit a record crest at around 45.5 feet at 11 a.m. this morning, and river levels will decrease to near or below minor flood stage by late this evening. So until then, actually a flood warning remains in effect until or through Sunday, July 4th at this point in time, or may end it earlier depending on the river levels, how fast they drop. Anyway, expect major flooding to the waters this evening and watch out for debris. And next we've got the fire danger graphic. Not much change from yesterday, a little less in the extreme department there for the Yukon Flats, Upper Yukon, and Porcupine River areas and the southern slopes of the Eastern Brooks Range, but still pretty high. And just some spotty areas there down in toward the White Mountains and in toward Fairbanks. Nothing really too serious with the cool temperatures. Temperatures rising in the lower to mid 70s in the Tanana Valley today, which is pretty typical, not extremely warm for this time of year. And of course, wet conditions out to the west have resulted in no fire danger at all for the Kobuk, Koyukuk, and Noatak Valley areas. And for the hazardous weather graphic, was still a flood advisory out for the Chilkat rivers, or the rivers in northern inside waters. Chilkat is one of them. There's another one also, and that's through tonight, flood advisory, so minor flooding along that river continuing for the night tonight, expected to end on Thursday morning. And up to the northwest, recent rainfall, although rainfall rates are less than what they were, 1 to 3 inches of rain fell throughout the area through the western Brooks Range along mountains. Kivalina picked up, I think it was 2.5 inches of rain so far. Anyway, that's resulting in a flood advisory with the heavier rain over the mountains draining out toward the coastline. Flood advisory continues for, 9 p.m. this evening. So just a few more hours there for the outer coastline. Flood watch, though, stays in effect for the through Thursday afternoon, tomorrow afternoon, for the Kobuk or northern Kobuk and Noatak Valley's western Brooks Range area, but rainfall rates are lightening up. And satellite imagery showing that band of clouds up over the North Slope Arctic coast, really not as enhanced as it was yesterday or impressive, although kind of a wave there causing the frontal boundary to get nudged northward a little bit there, and that helped lighten the precipitation up a little bit. But you can see a little whiter enhancement there of the clouds, and everything remains about stationary, line parallel to the wind flow. So may see another pickup in the precipitation as that next wave slides east-northeastward along the western Arctic coast. And then moisture over the west central interior, producing some light rain, but nothing too significant. Not like the front over the Alaska Peninsula brought the strong winds and heavy rain, inch and a half or over an inch and a half of rain 24 hours in the last 24 hours falling at Cold Bay, along with a peak wind gust of 68 miles per hour. And Cold Bay, 68 mile per hour wind gusts, while 60 mile an hour wind gusts were recorded at Nikolsky. And on Alaska had 60 mile an hour wind gusts in Dutch Harbor, as well as Cape Neuenham and St. George Island, picking up 55 mile an hour wind gusts, with again inch and a half of rain falling at Cold Bay and around an inch places like King Cove over to about Sand Point. Otherwise, some moisture sliding northeastward there, bringing some clouds into the southern panhandle today. Cooler temperatures, no more of the 80s and 90s that we're seeing recently, and much drier over the Copper River Basin with just a few clouds, and of course mostly sunny south central Alaska area here. Temperatures rising to 76 degrees at Skilock Lake Guard Station and 77 degrees at Butte. A couple of the warm spots in the state today, although mid to upper 70s also recorded over the Tanana Valley with some sunshine. And let's see, rolling that one more time. Really those clouds dissipating, kind of a weak band approaching the southeast coast. Won't even be noticeable when it passes on, if it even makes it onshore. Anyway, today, front tight gradient, Alaska Peninsula gusty winds actually coming down, front weakening from what it was, but another trough generating back with a main low hanging back toward the central Aleutians, the front up to the north, and pretty much dry. There's just some isolated afternoon showers developing over the Alaska range. Nothing too significant. Isolated thunderstorms, maybe some widely scattered showers. And then for the night tonight, fair skies, high pressure, southern half of Alaska, or more, actually southern 2/3 of Alaska, looking really good. Light winds, dry conditions, best chance of clearing there under the ridge axis from Bristol Bay northward across Kuskokwim Valley to the mid-Yukon River Valley. And that frontal boundary stays on the north side of the high there. Doesn't move much. That one wave kind of kicks off to the northeast. Another weak wave back toward the Point Hope area. More notable is the low 981 millibar low there pulling north of the central Aleutians, and another front generates. The first one kind of washes out and the next trough comes around. Anyway, look for the gale force winds back into the Alaska Peninsula. Could see gusts up toward 70 miles an hour again at Cold Bay with rain heavy at times. Pribilof's windy, wet conditions as well. And then for a forecast for Thursday, that front weakens now as it pushes into the coastline, and the low center tracks eastward just south of Unmak Island. Another low northwest of St. Paul, so wet and cloudy with IFR widespread across that area. Rain moves into Kodiak Island. Rain moves into the southwest coast, southern Kuskokwim Valley. Look for an increase in clouds late tomorrow for Cook Inlet. Otherwise, mostly sunny. Temperatures 75 to 83. Copper River Basin, Tanana Valley, Susitna Valley. Panhandle dry with a few clouds and temperatures 60s to 70s. Then southwest flow pulls that moisture right up into south central Alaska, covering all the western interior areas during the day on Friday. So cooler, wetter conditions. Otherwise, lows tonight, 40s and 50s, although down below the frost point there for the central Arctic coast, maybe the North Slope, and lower to mid 40s for the Bering Sea, lower 50s for the Panhandle. Highs tomorrow, 80 to 85. Central Interior, 83 Fort Yukon, 85 Fairbanks, mid-70s Susitna Valley down into the Kenai Peninsula. And then lows Friday morning, upper 50s for the Tanana Valley, and 40s and 50s most everywhere else. Upper 20s Central Arctic coast. And then the highs back into the 70s to mid-80s over the Tanana Valley, Upper Yukon Valley, and a little cooler South Central Alaska, but mid-70s in the Copper River Basin. And 60s to lower 70s, maybe 75 there for the Panhandle, upper 40s to mid 50s out over the Bering Sea and the Aleutians, Bristol Bay mid to upper 50s.
The very warm air along the northwestern coast has been breaking records, but also causing some flooding issues. I'm here at Mendenhall Lake, and normally this is actually a beach, but as you can see, the water level has risen to now I can't even get on the beach. And while WFO Juneau is keeping an eye on Mendenhall Lake, the big impact that we'll be keeping an eye on is the flooding on the Taku River. Hi, I'm Grant Smith, meteorologist for the National Weather Service here in Juneau, Alaska, here with Cody Moore, also a meteorologist from the National Weather Service. Cody, what is happening?
We have record flooding along the Taku River today, and it's causing quite a few impacts.
All right, but what caused this flooding? Because we haven't seen rain in Juneau in quite a while. So what caused this record flooding?
That is true. It's been quite nicely. But surprisingly, we had 175 to 200% of our normal snowpack this past winter. Plus, we've had our second wettest first 6 months of the year on record in Juneau. Those two combined, adding on the glacial dam release from Lake No Lake just up the Taku River, all of those three combined created the record flooding on the Taku River today.
Wow. And so what are some of the impacts that we are seeing from this record flood event?
We've had multiple people send us pictures and videos of water coming up to people's homes, up to their doorstep, and even people's homes inundated with water. You can see from the pictures that we have of people's homes being on stilts, multiple feet above the ground, and the water is still right up to the house.
Wow, that's a lot of flooding. And I'm sure you could probably use more pictures and reports, correct?
Yes, if anybody is around the Taku River area, we would love to see your pictures and reports. Send those to juneau.weather@noaa.gov. They are greatly appreciated.
Well, thank you, Cody Moore, meteorologist for the National Weather Service here in Juneau, Alaska. I'm Grant Smith, also a meteorologist with the National Weather Service here in Juneau, Alaska.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
First line weather graphic for Thursday morning. IFR western central Arctic coast into the western Brooks Range. Also IFR Kotzebue Sound, northern Seward Peninsula, through the Strait, St. Lawrence Island, Nunivak Island, all IFR. Pribilofs marginal, and Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta coastline marginal. IFR into the southwest mountains in areas, and then the Aleutians pretty much IFR, the exception being Shimia. And the Alaska Peninsula, especially on the Pacific side of the peninsula, will be the lowest conditions, with the IFR up the east side of Kodiak Island into the Barren Islands and southern Cook Inlet, Kachemak Bay, marginal. Northern Cook Inlet IFR, interior VFR, northern Cook Inlet and the interior, and marginal VFR Prince William Sound, North Gulf Coast. IFR now southern southeast coast and along the central coast as well, otherwise marginal. And then for the afternoon on Thursday, we've got IFR over toward the eastern border of the Panhandle, otherwise becoming some VFR showing up over the central and northern inside waters. IFR on the south coast though, and pretty much VFR for southern Alaska, the exception being some marginal VFR right in Prince William Sound and the eastern North Gulf Coast, possible IFR south coast of the Kenai Peninsula, Barren Islands, Kodiak IFR, marginal VFR Alaska Peninsula westward to Adak and the Pribilofs, and marginal VFR Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, IFR western half of St. Lawrence Island, and the Arctic coast improving to some areas of VFR with marginal VFR mostly over the Brooks Range and the central and eastern coast. From there, going to Friday morning, IFR western and central, or from about Point Lay on the Arctic coast eastward demarcation point, all IFR, marginal VFR for the North Slope. South of the Brooks Range, VFR right on down into the Mananuska-Susitna Valley, northern 2/3 of the Kuskokwim Valley. Auckland, Buckland Mountains IFR to start the day Friday, and Yukon Delta, as well as Nunivak Island, St. Lawrence Island. Most of the Aleutians IFR, marginal for the Pribilofs, and then marginal VFR with IFR on the south side of the Alaska Peninsula. And into southern Cook Inlet, marginal VFR northward to the Forelands, and IFR hugging the North Gulf Coast, and looks like IFR for the Panhandle to start. And we'll see for the afternoon. That burns off over the inner channel, especially central and southern areas, to VFR, lingers in the north though, and IFR along the coast into Prince William Sound, Passage Canal, to Portage, and possibly as far west as Girdwood. And then it cuts off at the Chugach Mountains with the marginal VFR, and then VFR west of there, western or eastern Kenai Peninsula, northern Cook Inlet, Susitna Valley. Interior looking really good all the way up to the Arctic coast, and then marginal VFR and IFR out over the Bering Sea. And for passes, Anatuvik, Adigan, both marginal tomorrow, but good VFR. Lake Clark, Merrill, Rainy, all of the Alaska Range passes will be VFR on either approach. And then for Tanita, looking VFR as well. Good conditions. Portage, VFR, and Chilkoot and White, VFR. Freezing levels, 2,000 feet, or actually at the surface coming down to the central Arctic coast there, 2,000 feet over the North Slope, and then 10,000 feet right through the central interior, and the cold pool there over the southern Bering Sea, west central or east central Aleutians at 4,000 feet. Icing, areas of that breaking up front, bringing some moisture into the southwest interior. Best chance Kodiak Island into the southeastern Aleutian Range. Some of that's trying to spread into southern Cook Inlet. Areas of light to isolated moderate rime icing, Yukon Delta to St. Lawrence Island, and mixed icing chances, eastern Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula, also with a band of moisture up over the eastern Arctic coast to the North Slope. And from there, jet stream, westerlies, North Slope Arctic coast 65 to 70 knots, otherwise south-southeast 65 to 85 knots. Bristol Bay, southwest interior, 90 knot westerlies over the southern Panhandle. 9,000 feet, 45 knots from the south and southeast for the eastern Bering into the western interior there, and up to 50 knots southeasterlies across the southwest interior. Made a little bit too fast of a jump there. Let me back it up a second. And then 60 knots just west of St. Lawrence Island, otherwise light winds. And now going to the turbulence chart, light, considerable moderate chop, Kodiak Island, right up across Bristol Bay, southern Kuskokwim Valley, and right up to eastern Norton Sound and the Lotto Hills.
kind of hard to explain how important weather is to our job. I mean, it really affects everything we do.
In 2018, NOAA launches the GOES-S satellite, which takes its place in orbit as GOES-17. Working together with GOES-16, the two new geostationary weather satellites will provide constant watch over the United States and the Western Hemisphere, from the west coast of Africa all the way to New Zealand, helping monitor severe storms, wildfires, and daily weather patterns. Since its launch, NOAA's GOES-16 satellite has already demonstrated its critical capability for keeping our nation weather ready. Throughout the active 2017 hurricane season, GOES-16 delivered imagery with detail and clarity never achieved before, with 4 times greater resolution than previous NOAA satellites, and delivered this imagery faster than ever before, helping forecasters predict the path of a storm and where and when it will intensify. These accurate and timely forecasts allowed for emergency managers to prepare for evacuations, map flood areas, and save lives.
So the weather matters. The weather matters before the weather happens, and the weather matters after the event happens, because what we're able to do to prepare, allocate resources, provide information to the public through the media beforehand, and what we're able to do afterwards, how and when the waters are going to recede, so we know we can get vehicles with life-saving food and shelter equipment down a particular highway. All of that depends on the forecast.
In the GOES West position, GOES-17 will be able to provide critical data for the westernmost United States, Alaska, and Hawaii.
We're talking about getting data updates in just seconds, so we can quickly spot wildfires and closely monitor the wind direction and their intensity. The crispness of the data coming in at a faster rate will also help with fog forecasts. We can see the moment the strata starts to develop or when it starts to move out.
Like GOES-16, GOES-17 carries a suite of advanced instruments, including tools for sophisticated earth sensing, lightning detecting, solar imaging, and space weather monitoring. As an equal partner in the sky, GOES-17 will expand coverage of the advanced baseline imager technology across the Pacific Ocean, allowing meteorologists and local officials to see severe weather systems developing in real time.
So instead of seeing something, say, this large, that as you zoom in actually gets kind of blurry, you're actually going to see something that is much more detailed.
In its GOES West position, GOES-17 will be able to monitor conditions in the western U.S. like wildfires, coastal fog, and atmospheric rivers when storms from the Pacific dump heavy rain and snow over the western U.S. GOES-17 will have a major impact on fighting wildfires in California. Up-to-the-minute information in crisp detail allows forecasters to spot fires faster than ever before, even before the first 911 calls come in, and to better track and predict the path of large, dynamic, and dangerous fires.
It's amazing to see what we can get and at the level of detail and the speed that we can get the information down into the ground that makes our decision-making way more accurate.
With a view of the Pacific Ocean, GOES-17 will also provide a critical eye over shipping lanes vital to the U.S. economy, protecting cargo and passenger vessels from dangerous ocean storms. GOES-17 will also provide a high-definition view over Alaska, resulting in better weather forecasts and improved monitoring of sea ice, wildfires, and volcanic ash. The advanced baseline imager on GOES-17 can distinguish between clouds, sea ice, and snow cover, a critical need during Alaska's dark, cloudy winter months. GOES-17's geostationary lightning mapper monitors lightning flashes, including the in-cloud lightning most prevalent in severe storms, helping forecasters determine when a storm is forming, intensifying, and becoming more dangerous. Thanks to GOES-17, emergency managers will be equipped with more accurate weather predictions and faster warnings, providing a real impact, saving lives, and protecting infrastructure. Watching over Earth from 22,300 miles above, GOES-S will provide vital data to our weather-ready nation.
Hi, I'm JPSS. I'm a high-tech weather satellite that orbits our planet. I do something called a polar orbit. I circle the Earth from North Pole to South Pole, over and over, while the Earth spins. While I do that, I get lots of information about what's going on around the globe. I watch storms, clouds, and rain. I take the temperature of the ocean, measure air quality, ozone health, and take pictures of the land and sea. This information is used for all kinds of things. It helps us take care of our coasts and oceans and all the amazing things that live there. It helps us monitor harmful weather events like floods and droughts and measure the health of the environment. Most importantly, it helps us predict weather 3 to 7 days in the future. That means I can be a big help ahead of storms, where future warnings are important. I send information to the National Weather Service. They use the information to create forecasts. The forecasts are shared with people all over the country to help prepare for weather emergencies. So you look to the sky and wave. I'll be flying by.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Taking a look at the marine forecast, starting with the ice edge, clearing conditions through much of the Bering Strait and into the Chukchi Sea. Also some lower concentrations of ice up through the Beaufort Sea coast. For Thursday's marine forecast for southeast, looking at variable winds in the inside waters, 15 to 25 with seas as high as 5 feet. Down through the outer coast areas, winds generally from a westerly direction to 20 with seas as high as 9 feet. For Friday's forecast, southeast, inside waters, winds generally from a variable direction, 15 with seas as high as 3 feet, and the outside waters, winds generally from the west at 10 to 20 with seas as high as 7 feet. For Thursday's marine forecast for south central, the Gulf region, looking at winds generally from a variable direction, 15 to 25, with seas as high as 8 feet. Look for small craft advisory there. And then for Prince William Sound, winds generally from a southwesterly direction, 10, with seas as high as 2 feet. And down through the Cook Inlet region, winds generally from a variable direction, 15 to 30, with seas as high as 9 feet. So look for small craft advisory down there near the Kamishak Bay region. For Friday's marine forecast, Gulf region, winds generally from a southerly direction, 20 to 25 with seas as high as 8 feet. And for the Cook Inlet region, winds generally from a easterly direction, 15 to 30 with seas as high as 8 feet. And again, look for small craft advisory in and around the Barren Islands. For Thursday's marine forecast, Alaska Peninsula, Kodiak Island, winds around Kodiak Island, 25 to 30 with seas as high as 14 feet. So look for small craft advisory, especially east and south of Kodiak Island. South side of the Alaska Peninsula, winds generally from the southeast at 30 with seas as high as 12 feet. And north side of the Alaska Peninsula, winds generally from a southeasterly direction, 25 to 35 with seas as high as 7 feet. So look for small craft to gales there. For Friday, looking at winds generally from a southerly direction around Kodiak Island with seas as high as 14 feet. With winds generally from a southerly direction, 20 to 30, with seas as high as 14 there. And the south side of the Alaska Peninsula, winds generally from a southwesterly direction to 30, with seas as high as 15. Again, look for small craft advisories there. And then look for, on the north side of the Alaska Peninsula, winds generally from the southerly direction, 20 to 25, with seas as high as 5 feet. For Thursday marine forecast, Aleutian Chain, winds generally from a variable direction, 20 to 25, even 30 there south of Unalaska, with seas as high as 13 feet. So looks for small craft advisory there. And for Friday's forecast, looking at winds generally from a southerly direction, 15 to 25, with seas as high as 13. So look for small craft advisory there near Unalaska. For Thursday's marine forecast, west coast, looking at winds generally from an easterly direction, 20 to 30, with seas as high as 8 to 9 feet. And then for Friday's marine forecast, winds generally from a variable direction, 10 to 20 with seas as high as 6 feet. And for the Arctic coast, winds generally from a northerly direction near the Beaufort Sea coast there, 10 to 15, down through the Chukchi Sea, winds generally from a northeasterly direction, 20 to 25 with seas as high as 9 feet. Look for small craft advisory there. And down through the Bering Strait, winds generally from a easterly direction, 25 to 30 with seas as high as 8 feet. For Friday's marine forecast, looking at winds along the Beaufort Sea coast from the easterly direction, 15 to 20, down through the Chukchi Sea, winds generally from the northeast at 25 to 30 with seas as high as 9 feet. And down through the Bering Strait, winds generally from the northeast at 20 with seas as high as 6 feet. For today's weather, looking at the 981 millibar low near the central and eastern Aleutians with a occluded front moving through the Alaska Peninsula, looking for isolated thunderstorms through portions of the interior, and a cold front moving through the Brooks Range, bringing some fog and shower activity up there. Otherwise, ridge of high pressure across much of the Gulf region, 1,030 millibars there. For looking at a flood warning again for the Taku River near Juneau, record stages down there, but water levels will be coming down as the glacial dam leak has emptied. For Thursday's weather, looking at a 981 millibar low now near the eastern Aleutians with a occluded front continuing to move eastward through the Alaska Peninsula and a trough over the interior.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.